Gennady Golovkin stops Curtis Stevens after 8 rounds. Stevens' corner pulled him out of the fight. But this was a very spirited effort by Curtis Stevens. He came out in the first round and he was looking to kind of meet fire with fire a little bit. He tucked up nice and tight, kept his hands high, came forward, and he tried to meet Golovkin head on. And for the first round and a half, or maybe the first round and 2/3, he was actually doing quite well in there. He was actually doing quite well. He was catching Golovkin with some nice little, shots. But pretty much the turning point of the fight was towards the end of the second round when Golovkin caught Stevens with a monster left hook. Stevens went down hard. And the look on Stevens' face was just a look of complete shock. Like, I mean, I know people are going to be, rewinding that and playing that again a few times because he just looked completely shocked and stunned by what he just got hit with, So that was pretty much the turning point of the fight. Stevens did show a lot of heart after that. After the second round, he did, again, land a few decent shots on Golovkin. He actually managed to back Golovkin off a few times by landing some solid shots. So I think he got Golovkin's respect here and there with his punches, but Golovkin was never seriously hurt, even though he did manage to catch him with a few clean shots. Some people think that Golovkin was unimpressive in this fight, but I think when you're fighting someone as short as Curtis Stevens, in the middleweight division, Stevens is only like 5'6", 5'7", and he fights out of a crouch and he comes up with fast whipping punches. It's not easy. It's not easy. So I thought it was a pretty good performance by Golovkin. In the end, it got really one-sided, and Golovkin was just pursuing Stevens around the ring and just battering him, and he wasn't leaving him alone. Golovkin is perpetual motion. He mixes in, big, heavy shots with not so heavy shots and just keeps the pressure on constantly, You can tell from watching Golovkin, he's a very heavy-handed guy. He clenches his fist very tight and he has very good technique and he gets good leverage into his shots. I think we've probably seen harder one-punch KO artists at middleweight over the years than Golovkin. I don't think he's the hardest one-punch puncher I've seen, but he's very consistent with his power. And he don't let you off the hook. He has good technique. Actually has underrated defense. Even though he was getting caught a few times in this fight by Curtis Stevens with some clean shots, I think that was more due to the fact that he was being so offensive and he was looking to get Stevens out of there. But when I was watching them exchange, when he had Stevens up against the ropes, Golovkin's very good at blocking shots with his shoulders and taking shots on his gloves. A lot of the shots that you think are landing are not actually landing if you watch closely. So I thought it was a decent performance by Golovkin. Stevens pretty much showed more heart than any of Golovkin's previous opponents. He showed a lot of heart in there, and he was just willing to battle it out to the very end. And in the end, his corner decided that Stevens had taken enough punishment and that this fight was only going to go one way, especially when they saw Stevens hit Golovkin with his best shots and Golovkin didn't go nowhere. So I thought it was a decent performance, although, like I said, a lot of other people believed that Golovkin didn't look that good and they were surprised to see him get caught as often as he did, and they thought he would just destroy Stevens easily. But, the problem is that people get unrealistic expectations in their heads. For me, the jury was always going to be out on Golovkin until he fights a world-class fighter. And Stevens still is not really a world-class middleweight. He's definitely maybe just breaking top 10 if you really rank the middleweights properly. But, he's not really a world-class middleweight, But I think people had a little bit unrealistic expectations of what Golovkin would do to Stevens. I think maybe they underestimated Stevens' heart a little bit. Maybe they overestimated Golovkin's destructible, destructive power. So, me personally, I thought it was a decent performance by Golovkin. And obviously, we want to see him in there with Martinez and Quillen and what have you. So, yeah, drop your comments below. Tell me how you felt about this performance. Big shout out to Curtis Stevens. Showed a lot of heart, came to fight, but just wasn't good enough in the end. So Golovkin marches on, goes on to bigger and better things. Yeah, hit me up in the comment section below. This is Hatman. I'm out.